Hey everyone, welcome to our July session. I'm trying to say July 1st and July at the same time. So, welcome to our July session. This is our getting started with Jira. This is the halfway point, or I guess more than halfway point. At this point, we are on the second half of the year, and we're going to be talking about working in Jira. At this point, we have been building up. I'm going to switch on over here. We have been building up, understanding Jira, project types and templates, what are issue types, processes and workflows, fields and custom fields, forms and creating issues. And today, it's how to actually use Jira. It's going to be working in the tool, working in how to interact with Jira, how to update things, how to see things, where to find things. And so today's session is going to be very, very foundational for now that we know how the plumbing and infrastructure and foundations work inside of Jira, what can we do with it? And so make sure you hit that subscribe button because we're going to get into this conversation and it's going to be a fun one. To everybody else, welcome. Welcome to everybody tuning into the chat. Thank you so much for being here. I know we had a little bit of a time change. I had to do a little change because I had a conflict that normally I don't have a conflict, especially since I booked these meetings back in December. And so, but every once in a while, you get a CIO, you get a CEO, somebody who needs my help with Jira. And, I got to move a couple of things around because, CEOs pay a lot more than free. So, um, hopefully it's not a big problem. But if you do prefer this time, let me know because, most of my sessions are usually at 8 a.m. Pacific time. But more than happy to tweak this one around. Actually, I think I might have done it at 7. I'm not even sure what time we do them anymore. Anyways, hopefully you all are here. You made it. So let's jump into it. So a couple friendly reminders. This session is being recorded. Will be available on YouTube after. So if I speak over anything too fast, too hard, just let me know and or just rewatch the recording, right? Make sure you hit that subscribe button and we'll jump you'll be able to jump around and go back and catch the parts you might have missed. The slides aren't going to be available because I mainly are spend my time inside of Jira. So we're going to be in Jira the majority of this time. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Thank you, Chad. Thank you so much. Yeah, that mic check's always scary, but I just learned to live with it at this point. Oh, and we got Tipton here, who's a new member. So thank you so much, Tipton, for becoming a member of the channel and for supporting everything we do here on ApeTech. So thank you so much for being a member. And for everybody else, if you didn't know, I do have a membership opportunity, and we do have a lot of cool stuff. Like I drop all my videos that I do for the Summer of Atlassian. You get them literally as soon as they get updated or uploaded, and so you get to see them first before anybody else. And the other part is you do also get member only videos. And so a lot of cool stuff. And I do a little bit more deeper thinking, a little bit more critical thinking and analysis on those videos. So if you enjoy or would enjoy videos that are a little bit more thought provoking, right? That just kind of make you think a little bit more, that membership opportunity is there for you. Howdy y'all. How are we doing this morning? Liz, we are doing well. It's going. It's going. It's 7 a.m. is usually very early for me, so not a whole lot of things have had to catch on fire yet today. So we're still surviving. All right. Say hello in the chat. As you can see, we already have a couple friendly faces. We have Chad, we have Liz. These are are slowly and surely becoming good friends of mine. And so if you want to join the conversation, just pop on over to the chat and say hello. And if you have any questions at any point about anything that I'm going to be talking about, just make sure you ask in the chat. I try to have a dedicated Q&A section, but I normally don't get a chance to get that far. And so we'll just ask away. Just ask, and I'll try to keep an eye on the chat. Liz says pre TY to Alex for the 2-year-old back Jira product discovery videos. I couldn't figure out what the heck I did. Oh yeah. Yeah, so I need to make new videos on Jira product discovery. We're making new ones, Liz. New ones are on the way, but there's only so many days in the year that I can post videos. So one a day is what's keeping the doctor away right now. Aruel, greetings. Thank you for being here. All right. So again, hit that subscribe button and let's jump about. Who am I? So my name's Alex, in case this is the first time you've met me. I have the ACP 620, ACP 120, ACP 520. And very, very soon, now that we're in the month of July, I'm going to start working towards the ACP 420 because I would like to have the ACP 420 before I go to Team 25 Barcelona. That's the first week of October. And so that gives me all of July, August, all of September. So 3 months, 90 days to try to get that 420. But I just took the 420, 620 like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So I'm still kind of recovering from that. So we'll see. We'll see if I take it or not. But I'm gonna try. That my goal is to have that certification before Barcelona. Other than that, I'm gonna drop my links here. I run a fairly successful, I guess. I don't know what I would call it. I run a fairly successful YouTube channel here and there, everywhere, and you know, man, my notes are all over the place today. They're not there where they're supposed to be. I was playing with it yesterday, and now they all got moved around. We'll find that link later. But yeah, so I run the Jira Life as well. So this is not the only thing that we do here. We do quite a few things here, and the Jira Life is just one of the many things that we do. And so we have that. We have the memberships that I just mentioned. We have paid books. We have paid courses on Udemy, making new courses on Udemy. So lots of stuff going on. So check out that link tree there. It'll take you to all the places you need to know. All right. So enough of the marketing material. Let's jump into what you're going to be learning today. So we're going to cover quite a few things over the next 55 minutes here. And again, these are supposed to be foundational, right? Everything that I'm going to be talking about today is really just like laying a good platform so that you can be comfortable with Jira, so that you know what the things are, because the UIs can sometimes be a little overwhelming, and knowing where to click, what each of these buttons do, when you should click on them, where you should be to do specific things, it could be overwhelming if you're kind of new to the tool, right? And so we're going to be covering basically how to be productive, how to use Jira, how to get in the tool, engage with the tool, and not feel lost or overwhelmed with the tool. All right. That's going to be the focus for today. And so we'll cover backlogs and boards and lists and all your work, and how to assign work, and how to find work, and how to update your work, how to mention people, how to comment people, and how to deal with notifications. So with that said, we're going to jump into Jira. This is Jira, in case you've never seen it before. And we're just going to jump into a project. It doesn't matter which project we're in. We just need to be inside of a project. And so I'm going to go into this Jira for Scrum Masters. And this is a project. Now, a couple of things you need to know when you're looking at these projects. Number one, and this is something you should ask yourself every single time that you're interacting with a new Jira or with a new project or with a new team, because these foundational questions that we're going to cover here in the next 10 seconds are going to set your mind for how you should expect to interact with Jira. Because believe it or not, Jira's a big tool, right? It's an overwhelming tool. And there's different ways to interface with the tool. There's different ways to get what you want, and location and placement of things are in different places depending on which view you're in. So one of the things that I like to do is over here on the left-hand side, first of all, you want to make sure you're in the new UI, because if you're not, in the next 6 days, I believe on July 7th, Atlassian is going to push the new UI to everybody. So if you're enjoying, and please do enjoy for the next 5-6 days that you have left, right? But if you're enjoying that old UI, cherish it, because it's going to go away. And this new UI is not the best. I'm still adjusting. I've been complaining about this for months now. Starting to sound like a broken record, but it's just very unintuitive to me. But anyways, on the left-hand side under projects, you have your projects here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on these ellipses for more actions, and I'm looking at a couple of things. Number one, is this a software-based project, right? And that means, do I have things like sprints? Do I have things like my backlogs? Am I going to be able to use something like story points? Those things are only available in the Scrum-based software project template. Okay, so that's one key aspect, because your interaction with Jira, if you care for sprints, if you care for story points, if you care for having a backlog, right, a traditional agile experience, then this is the only project template that's going to work for you. And so a lot of what we're going to be talking about, the navigation, the how to use and interact with Jira, is going to be based on that agile principle, right? So it's critical that you have that foundation, that you know how to find what kind of template you're in. I'm also looking for this word active sprint, because this word active sprint is going to be present when I'm in a Scrum template. So this one's truly going to be like, if you wanted to use every feature in Jira, you want to be in a Scrum, which means that you have the word active sprint here, and you have company managed. Okay, so if you have both of those, well, I guess all three, you need software project, company managed, and this needs to say active sprint, then you have unlocked Jira to use it in full power mode, right? That's going to be the version of Jira that has all the bells and whistles available to you. Now, there's other templates. There's Kanban style, right? So let me see if I can find a Kanban one here. So this one right here, we can look at this one here. There's a Jira class. you can see that it too is a software project, that it too is a company, but we have a Kanban board. And you'll notice that we don't have a backlog and we just have a board. And the experience here is different as well. So you don't have a backlog. You don't have to pre-plan a sprint. And so how you interact, how you work with Jira is going to change. So you want to keep in mind, does this say Kanban board? If it doesn't, right? Does it say active sprint? Because there are going to be different ways to interact and use the tool. And you want to make sure you don't come in expecting a certain behavior, but it works differently because you're in different templates and different templates work differently. Okay. And then the other template that you have available for yourself, and we're just going to go to our view all projects here, is we want to look at our business templates. So there are business templates within Jira, and these are designed for teams that don't really care about Agile, right? And so when I go into this one here, you're going to see that we have a lot of the same buttons, but when I click here, we're in a business project and we're in a team managed project. And so the behavior here is way more streamlined, right? You don't have a lot of customization in these team managed projects, in these business projects, right? For example, you can only have one board. You're not going to have a backlog, right? But interacting and using Jira is way easier in a business project because Atlassian has designed it with some safeguards in place so that the experience is a little bit easier, right? And so whenever you're using Jira, right, and you're just not comfortable or you're not feeling Jira, right? It's like something's not working right. Go and explore this. Click on these three dots and find out what kind of project template you're in, whether it's team managed or company managed, right? Because those experiences are going to significantly alter your experience with Jira and ultimately how you use Jira. For example, if you're in a team managed project, you can do pretty much a lot. You can do a lot. I didn't want to say anything you want because there are some limitations. But in team managed projects, if you want to add a new column to a board, you just click the plus button. Doesn't matter who you are. You don't have to be a Jira administrator. You don't need to have all the certifications that I have to alter and change your Jira. If you want to add a new field, you just add a new field. No questions asked. But in company managed projects, you don't. You have to go through hoops, right? There's some safeguards. There's some limitations from an end user perspective, but you need to know what you're doing inside company managed projects, right? And so again, this is not an admin course. I won't get into that many details, but just know that there is a fundamental difference between team managed and company managed projects, and there are fundamental differences between these business templates and these software templates. Okay. And then, of course, we have, just to kind of top off this topic, we have Jira Product Discovery, which is also in the mix. We have Jira Service Management, which is also in the mix. So just make sure you are grounded and you know exactly what kind of project you're dealing with, what kind of product you're dealing with, because all of these variations here, whether you see team managed software, team managed business, company managed software, product discovery, service management, they're all in the same place, but they all behave differently. Okay. So what we're going to be focusing on for today is the best case scenario, right? Which is we are in a software project, company managed, and we're in Scrum. Okay. And I'm going to focus my attention there because this is, again, where you get the full effect, the full 0 to 100 of Jira, right? You get all the features, all the functionality, all the capabilities are in this particular template. All the other ones are kind of a little bit different. There's an effort. Okay, yeah. So there's an excellent table. Liz, if you find a link to that, that'd be awesome. But yeah, if you go look at the support docs, apparently there's an excellent table summarizing the differences, right? And again, I just wanted to call them out because when you talk about how do we use Jira, depending on those templates, the how is subjective, right? It's going to be tailored to which template do you have, and some of them are going to be easier and some modes are going to be a little bit harder, and we're going to focus on the hard mode here because I feel like if you can master this one, right, if you can understand how hard works, then easy is super easy, and you won't have a single problem over there. So let's jump into this board here, and we are going to walk through things. Okay, so first things you need to know as well, right? So we're in a project. It's called Jira for Scrum Masters Course Project. That's the name of the Jira project. Spoilers, projects are going to be renamed to spaces. Okay. So just in case you didn't know. All right. And inside of this space, I like to call my Jira project like a house. We have something called a board. All right. And so think of the board as a room inside of that house. Now, in your company managed projects, that analogy is very important because we are allowed, as you can see here, we're allowed to have multiple rooms. We're allowed to have multiple boards in a Jira project. Okay. This is something that is specific to these company managed projects and also to the software type, right? And so you can have a combination of 10 Scrum boards, you can have 10 Kanban boards, you can have 5 Scrum, 5 Kanban, and anything in between, right? You can have as many boards as you want and any kind of style that you want. And so you have a lot of flexibility, you have a lot of freedom. Try to keep it simple though, right? There is value in not overly complicating Jira and try to keep it to 1 or 2 boards. But just know that a board does not always equal the project. It doesn't have to mean the same thing. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves. That is when people call a board, like we say, they're like, oh yeah, just go to this board. I'm like, no, no, you don't want to go to the board. You want to go to the project, and then you want to find the board within the project. Now, this is another annoyance of this new UI because I can't go to a project in Jira anymore. I have to pick a board, which is even more annoying, right? So again, I digress, but that's what's there. Liz has to search what are team managed and company managed projects, and you'll get to the table. So thank you, Liz, for that right there. Okay, so we are in a board now, right? We now know the differences between a project and a board, and the same is going to apply to a bunch of the other templates that we have, right? There's always a project and there's boards, and so in this company managed software template, I want to talk to you about the backlog. So if you remember from last month, we talked about how to add things, right? We were talking about how do we add work. And so every time you click the create button, right, and you create a story, right? So please subscribe to the channel, right? And every time you hit the create button, watch what happens. At the very, very bottom of my board, all the way at the bottom, there's a backlog section. And inside this backlog section, there's that item that we just created. Now, this is a story, right? This is the work type is called a story, but it can be anything you want. It could be a task. It could be a bug. It cannot be an epic. So epics will never show up here. Epics show up in this color section over here. And then if you had initiatives and things like that, they shouldn't show up. They will show up, but you got to filter them out because then you'll have a less than ideal experience. But anyway, so every time you create something, right, whether it's coming in through a form, right? So we also talked about forms where you can create forms, and then this is just a URL that any team member can submit, and then you have items that show up in your backlog, right? And so the backlog is the place where things go, right? Every time you create something, it's automatically in the backlog, right? Now, this is again is very specific to the Scrum template because only the Scrum template has a backlog by default, and only the Scrum template has the backlog that behaves in this particular manner. I'm going to call something out very important in a minute here, so pay attention, right? So every time we create something, though, it shows up on the bottom, right? And we don't have to click the blue button. We can just click the create button here, right? Like seriously, subscribe, right? And when I hit enter, again, that item's going to be added to the bottom of the backlog. But as a team member, we usually work out of the board, right? And so usually you assign things to people. Try not to sneeze on camera. It's really hard to do, right? So usually you assign things to people, and then that person works on the task at hand, right? But as you can see, our board is empty. And so inside of Jira, you need to move things into a sprint. There's this concept of you got to plan a sprint. Now, I don't want to turn this into a whole Agile 101 training type of thing, but because we picked the hardest template, it follows the rules and laws of Agile. And so in order for this item to show up, right, in order for something like this, please subscribe to the channel and seriously subscribe. In order for them to show up, you need to take them out of your backlog and you need to move them into your next sprint. Now, I have a couple of sprints here, right? I have this sprint called Ready for Next Sprint. I have something called a JFSMCP Sprint 3. And then I have a JFSSFS. Oh, man, I should really work on my keys, project keys, Sprint 2. Okay. And so Sprint 2, the things you got to know is if you have a lot of multiple sprints, the highest sprint is the one you care about, the one that's at the top. Okay. And so what we want to do is we want to take these items, we can right click and move them to that sprint at the top. Okay. And so when we do that, they're going to be in this sprint up here, and then nothing because there's more steps you got to do. And so at the end of the day, well, I should say at the beginning of the week or at the beginning of your sprint is really what I really should be saying, right? Your team, maybe your Scrum Master, maybe you are a Scrum Master yourself. In the chat, let me know. Are you a Scrum Master in your project or in your team, in your company? Let me know if you're a Scrum Master. Let me know if you're a developer. I'm kind of curious what kind of demographics y'all have. Are you a Scrum Master? Are you a developer? Where are you at in the world of roles, I guess. Okay. But your Scrum Master, typically what they do is they'll plan a sprint, right? So you move things from your backlog into your sprint, right? And then you estimate them. You give them some story points. Again, in the interest of time, I don't want to turn this into a agile training, but things usually get some story points. And then you don't have to, right? Your Scrum Master chooses what they want to do here, right? But your Scrum Master can assign things to people. So I'm going to assign this one to myself, right? And when you assign these items to yourself, or to a team member, right? Then you're ready to start your sprint. And so as long as everything has numbers, right? So this is a critical item. If you're a Scrum Master, pay attention. Don't ever start your sprint without populating your estimates. The assignees are optional, totally optional, but always make sure you have story points. Otherwise, you're gonna have a less than ideal experience in Jira. But once you have everything estimated and all the tasks that need to be worked on by your team are in your sprint, then you simply start your sprint, you set your dates, and we're going to go 2 weeks from now, and then you click start. Okay. And now we have things on our board. Now we can use Jira. Now we can actually be productive in Jira. And this is very critical, folks, right? If your team doesn't go through those steps, if your team is using a Scrum template, a software Scrum template, and they don't go through the motions of taking items from the backlog, putting them into a sprint, and starting the sprint, then you don't get a board. You don't get the board to be to do what you intended to do, which is different than when I go, right? So if I were to go back to our board over here that's in Kanban, let me see if I can find that one again, right? Look at this. When I create something in here, right? This is a bug, right? When I create that bug, it's on the board immediately. There is no planning. There is no backlog. There is no thinking about it, estimating it, assigning it to people. It just shows up. It's on the board automatically. And those are, again, fundamental differences that we have between Scrum and Kanban, that Scrum requires a lot more rigor, it requires a lot more discipline, and it requires a lot more knowledge, intimate knowledge of how Agile works. It's very, very tightly coupled with Agile. Versus Kanban, it's a little bit more loosey-goosey. Um, by default, it just behaves just like this, right? You create things, it shows up in the first column, and then you move them across. However, you do have the ability to enable backlogs in Kanban boards. Again, I'm not going to get into that one, but just know that you can make a Kanban board behave a little bit more like a Scrum board, but still not 100%. Okay. And then when we go and look at our business templates, right? The moment we hit create something here, right? The moment we create a task, right? Have you subscribed? Sorry again, folks. If you guys just if you would all subscribe and I hit my goals, and I don't have to tell you to subscribe. So just hit that subscribe button, and then I don't have to bug you with this. Okay. But when you create something, you can see it just automatically goes to that very first column at the very far left. All right. And and that's it. Like the interaction is so simple. It's just like, okay, I have something in there. I want to do next week, so I'm going to move it there. And then that's it. Like your interactions are so primitive and so simple in these other templates. But when you are in a Scrum board, things are literally on hard mode, right? Like I don't want to, well, maybe hard mode is not the right wording, right? But there's just more steps involved. And we do this because, again, we want to follow the ways of Agile. And this is the best way to do it. Because at the end of the day, if you are following Scrum, you should not work on anything that is not in your sprint. And this is a safeguard. This protects us and makes sure that our team members are only working things that are assigned to them within a sprint. Okay. And so now we have things in our sprint, right? So we have things assigned to people, and we have work in here. And so a couple of questions. Well, how do you assign things to people? Well, there's a couple of ways, right? So this is icon here. If you click on it, you can always just click into the icon, right? And sometimes, as you can see, if I created something new, right? Like a new task, a new story, right? You'll see that this little grayed out silhouette is there. So if you click into it, you can just click on a person and then it's assigned. Okay. You can also open a story, right? You can open a work item, any of them, and you can go to the assignee field and you can just click into it and change it. So you can change it to unassigned. Anybody who has access to your project is going to show up here. Okay. Now, a couple of things for you to consider. If somebody's name doesn't show up, there's a couple of reasons for that. And there's some troubleshooting you got to do. Number one, the first thing you got to ask yourself, do other people's names show up? Because if no names show up, then there's a global setting in Jira that prevents or is preventing you from being able to search for people. So the big question, the first big question you got to ask, do I see some other name? Because if you see no names, that's one problem. That's a global problem. That's something you got to talk to your Jira admin. Next, do I see some names, right? The next question is, do I see some people's names, but just not Timmy, right? Timmy from accounting is not showing up, and I want to assign this story to Timmy from accounting. Well, that's a different problem. And that usually implies one of two paths, right? It either means that Timmy from accounting doesn't have a Jira license, right? Actually, three things. One, it can mean Timmy from accounting doesn't have a Jira license. So if they don't have a Jira license, they're not going to show up, right? They're not in your Jira. Two, Timmy from accountant doesn't have access to this project. So maybe they do have a Jira license, but they just don't have access to this project. And so they need to have access to the project. And then the third one is Timmy from accounting is not in a group or role or in a permission that allows Timmy to be assigned work. And so you got to troubleshoot through these steps. And sometimes you got to work with your Jira admins to ultimately figure it out. But assigning work is something we fundamentally do very commonly in Jira, right? Because once the work is created, right, you don't want to just have a pool of work. Because if you just have work, right, if you just have all these different tasks that need to get done, but they don't get assigned to anyone, then guess what? I'm gonna spoil it for you. It's not gonna get done, right? And so you want to make sure that that you actively assign work to people, because not assigning work to people can be very perilous. It could be very dangerous, because if somebody doesn't get the work assigned to them, right, then that work might not get done. Now, yeah, if you're true a Scrum team, right, you might not do the assignment during sprint planning. That's okay. But at some point, when somebody moves it to in progress, there should be an assignee. There should be somebody at some point in the life cycle. It doesn't have to be at the beginning, like during sprint planning, but at some point during that life cycle of that work, somebody needs to and should take responsibility of that work, and you do that by indicating an assignee. Now, the biggest, most commonly asked question is, can I assign it to two or more people? In the chat, what do y'all think is the answer? Can you assign something, a task, a story, a bug? Can you assign it to two or more people? Let the chat go here and see what they say. But the general rule of thumb, right? We're going to think about this for a second, right? And the question, the bigger question you should be asking yourself is why? Why are you trying to assign something to two or more people? So Olivier says yes, and Tushar says no. So one of them is right and one of them is wrong. And so the assignee, at least the out of the box assignee field in Jira, is designed for one and only one assignee. And I like that. I like that philosophy. I like that rule, because when you have one person in charge, right? One person responsible, accountable is really the right word here, then that person will ultimately be responsible for this thing to be completed, right? And that's a really good thing. We want accountability, we want responsibility. After all, we're working with adults here, right? If you have two or more people, believe it or not, the whole adult thing goes out the window, because when you have two people that are supposed to be working on the exact same task, first you got to ask yourself, why are two people working on the exact same task? And why is it not two different tasks? Like, what is the task that two people are fundamentally working on the exact same thing? I'm willing to bet that they're going to be working on slightly different things, right? And and then they it's clear what the division of the work or the labor is. So Tushar says we use a custom field called assistant just in case. Yeah. So you can add custom fields that are of the type user picker, and then you can call your QA person, you can call out your tester, you can call out your developer, right? You can call out your stakeholder. In this case with Tushar, we got our assistant. And so you can add other fields that support like users, but the assignee field is only going to be one person. Now, the assignee field is very important, because when we look at Jira and we're looking at these icons, only the assignee field is going to show up. We're not going to be able to change this to some other custom field. And so this has to be the assignee field. So if you're not using the assignee field, or if you're trying to assign it to multiple people, it's not going to work, right? So you only want to assign it to one person. Now, when you assign work to people, again, not only are you creating accountability, not only are you creating responsibility, right? You're increasing your chances of success, right? You're increasing your chances and probability that somebody's going to be able to finish this work, right? Fingers crossed, hopefully. But the other thing that you're doing here, the more important thing that you're doing is that you're making the experience in Jira easier for that person, right? Because when they come to the board, all they got to do is click on their picture and they're going to see their work, right? So finding the work per person on your team becomes very trivial because you just go through these bubbles and you go to the next person and you go to the next person, right? And so you can basically view everybody's work at a glance. Additionally, on the right hand side, we have a group by. And if we click on this group by, we can do assignee. And now each person on my team that has work assigned to them has their own swim lane. And I can see how many work items belong to them. And then I can expand it and see their actual work, right? So the assignee field has a lot of benefits. And so again, if you're not assigning your work to people and you're struggling with Jira, I would highly urge you to reconsider not assigning work to people and start assigning work to people. It makes the experience a lot better. Okay. So, but once something's assigned to somebody, right? So what do they do, right? So one, they need to find their work, right? And we've already talked about like if they can get to their board, then they can click on their name and then they're just going to see their work. Okay. That's cool. That's awesome. That's great. That's going to work out really, really well. But there's a For You page up here now, right? So part of this new UI, there's a For You. And so if you click on that, there you're going to notice that there's an Assign to Me section here. And so the moment you assign work to people, right? Again, we're increasing our likelihood of success, we're increasing accountability, we're increasing responsibility, but we're also letting Jira work for us. And so now there's this assigned to me, and I can just come here and see all of the work that's assigned to me. I'm going to load new activity. I got new things in here, right? And so I can just click on these items and start working on them, right? And now I can be productive with Jira because half the problem in Jira is finding the work, right? Half the battle. I mean, right now I have like 20 tasks. It's easy, but when you have thousands and thousands and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of tasks, finding the work becomes really challenging. So when the work is assigned to somebody, finding the work to a specific that belongs to a specific individual becomes a lot easier, way more easier, right? And so it becomes way easier for that end user as well. So if you're not a scrum master, but you're just a regular user and you're like, I don't even know what a board is, I don't know what a sprint is, I don't know where my work is, you just come here, and as long as it has your name on it, it will show up here. And that's good. You want that. This is like easy Jira on easy mode, right? Like if you're ever confused with Jira and you're like, I don't know, I don't even know where to start here. Start in the For You page, because this For You page is where you're going to come to find the thing that you're ultimately responsible for, right? Because if you don't do this, then you probably won't have a job, right? Because if you're not being responsible, you're not being accountable, and you're not completing the work or the tasks that are assigned to you, then you probably are not going to meet expectations with your management and leadership, right? And then bad things will happen. And so just make sure you're staying on top of this, right? Make sure you're staying on top of this list so you can always complete the work. Now, we know that work is assigned to us, right? Awesome. We know how to find it. Yay. What do we do next? Well, we are going to pause here to look at a question from Chirag. I use subtasks and assign them to different resources as we can assign. Yes, this Chirag is a great way of doing this, where you can take any task and kind of split it up, and so that others can look at it, or everybody can have their piece. Okay. All right. So everybody's got their work assigned. We all know what to do in Jira. We're ready to do something. Now, what do we do? What are we supposed to do with Jira? Because everything we've been building up to this point, right? There's a lot of product managers, right? People creating the tasks. There's a lot of scrum masters, people planning the work, right? But what do I do if I'm just an individual contributor, right? I'm gonna get a task assigned to me. What do I do? Like what's my responsibility, right? And so the next part is gonna sound silly, but bear with me, okay? But literally, once something's assigned to you, right? Once something has landed on your lap, all you need to do is go on that task and move it across the board. That's it. So you're gonna take your work that's assigned to you, right? You don't want to be doing this for other people, right? You don't want to do it for anything that's not assigned to you, right? But you take the work that's assigned to you, and when you start working on it, you move it to the appropriate status. Right now, you're Jira admin. Somebody created this board with these columns and these statuses and these workflows, right? But you just go to the next step, right? And so your job, your responsibility as a user of Jira is to update Jira, to stay consistent with Jira. If you're working on two things in parallel, move them to in progress. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. Don't be scared. Right? It's very simple. Just move them to in progress. Move them to the next status. It's very simple. And you have two ways of doing that, right? You can just simply drag and drop, or you can open it. You can open that story. You can open that task, that bug, whatever's got assigned to you. And there's a status field on this upper right hand corner. And you click into it, and it's going to show you what status you can move it to. So we can move it back to do, right? You can see it went back. You can open it back up. You can move it to in progress, and it will move to in progress. Okay. As you can see here, Jira is being updated. And this, my friends, is the single most important thing about Jira. If you are not an admin, if you're not a scrum master, if you're not a product manager, if you're not a project manager, right? If all you are is an individual contributor with things to do, then your one responsibility in Jira is to make sure that you are updating your Jira tickets, you're updating your Jira status, because this is going to communicate everything else to the people that do care about the planning and the roadmaps and the progress and your stakeholders, right? Because if you don't update the status, if you just do work without updating Jira, then what are we doing here, right? Like you want to be making sure you're updating Jira, specifically the status. Okay. So that's your responsibility number one, right? And so if I had to, in a nutshell, say, how do I use Jira? Well, it's take a story that's assigned to you or a task and update the status. And your responsibility is to continue to update the status until you eventually move it to done, right? Until you eventually make it to the farthest rightmost column and until it's resolved and it's crossed out. And that's your job. Your job is to just get the work done, right? And so again, my workflow is easy. I have 3 statuses: to do, in progress, and done. You might have 20, you might have 50 statuses. Hopefully not. If you have 50 statuses, reach out to me, link down below. Let me help you, because there should never be a workflow with 50 statuses in it. Okay. Um, but yeah, your job is to make sure that for the items that you are responsible for, anything that's assigned to you in that sprint before this button gets clicked by your scrum master, you want to move that stuff to the farthest right column. You want to move it to done. Okay. Now, what else can we do as a user of Jira, right? So obviously we have to update the status, right? So if I had to summarize, and I'm giving these to you in order, find the word that's assigned to you, right? Finding your work, most critical part, because you can't do anything else if you don't even know where the work is. So once you find it, your next responsibility is to update the status. That is, those two things are going to get you very, very far in Jira. Okay, very, very far. But there's a lot more stuff that we can do, right? So at any point, I'm just gonna move this back to in progress, right? At any point, you can add a description, right? So um, just I can paste things in here. You can save things, right? So I have like links here. You can do whatever you want to do, right? Like you can paste anything you want. You have time tracking. If your company requires you to track time, there's a time tracking they're either through a plugin, right? So here I can start tracking time. And so we have a start timer. This is not sponsored, but there's apps that track time like this with the timer, right? Jira does have a native time tracking built in here. So you can say, hey, I spent 1 hour on this, right? And then thanks for subscribing. Thanks for becoming a member. Again, shout out if you didn't know, I have a membership capabilities and opportunities, and you can be cool like my good friend Tipton here, who became a member recently. So again, if you want to be like Tipton and be have the special green, and this is kind of cool. You get like the special green one, and then again, you get early access to my videos. You get special member only videos, and then we're gonna have Q&As and office hours and stuff like that coming very soon. And so if you want that, make sure you become a member. Okay. But yeah, you can track your time. You can estimate your work in time as well. You can edit basically any field, right? So you can set your start dates. You can set a due date. Now, sometimes these are going to be set by somebody else, or you can do it yourself, right? You can change the priority if you wanted to, or again, somebody else can change the priority. But if you're a developer, right? If you're a development team, one of the big things is when you go to create your branch, you can click here and it'll take you to your Git repository. And what it's going to do is it's going to take the title and the key of your ticket, right? Of your Jira issue, or your work item here, JFSMCP-22, seriously subscribe. And it's going to automatically put it in our branch name. And so we just need to select your repository. You pick your branch, hit create, and then your branch, oops, apparently I don't have the permission to do it, but you go through these steps and then your branch is made. And guess what? Your Jira and your GitHub or your Bitbucket or your GitLab or whatever you're using become linked and synced. And so now you can see your commits, you can see your pull requests in there. And so it's kind of cool. Like they're designed to work together, and you get a lot of good situational awareness, good context from here. Now, but what else do we do, right? So not only are we, committing and setting that stuff up, we're setting our dates, we're tracking our time, right? But down here on the bottom, there's a comment section under activity. And this comment section is kind of important. This allows you to, I don't want to say micro status, but this allows you to interact with the ticket or the Jira work item in different ways from things that are just not captured in fields, right? So if you had a question for your manager, you can like go, hey, right? And I'm gonna pretend automation for Jira is my manager. I'm not sure what to do here. Okay, exclamation mark. And when you hit save, two things are gonna happen. One, you just added a comment, yay! But two, you just tag somebody, you just mentioned someone, and that's going to trigger a notification. So that particular user, whoever you just tagged, is going to receive an email notification, and it's going to tell them, hey, so and so is tagging you, right? So and so mentioned you, and they need your help. Well, it's not going to tell me they need your help, but it'll say the message, right? And this one obviously needs some help, right? And so now they're going to be able to come in, and that individual is going to be able to reply. And so the replies are nested, and go, have you tried restarting your computer, right? And the conversation gets nested, and so that's kind of cool. It's kind of neat that this is a new feature. It's like about 6 months, less than 6 months old within Jira here, about 6 months, where you can now nest your conversations. You can alternatively, add a new comment up here and start a whole new thread if you wanted to. But this is kind of cool that you can now do threaded conversations. Now, everything you do in Jira is tracked. It's all tracked inside of Jira, and so every interaction that we do is recorded inside of Jira here. So everything that we've done to this story within the last 24 minutes has been recorded, and it's timestamped, and you can't lie. Jira doesn't lie here. Jira knows exactly what you've done. All of our work logs are logged, so anytime that we put in here is there. And then our transitions. This is interesting. So our transitions, as we moved across, right, from one status to the other, it tells you this time and status. Now, I think this would be a plugin. I don't know that this is a thing built into Jira. Let me go to a different Jira and confirm. Give me a second. I'm gonna go to a different Jira. Uh-oh. We ran out of that Jira. Oh no, I need to get a new Jira. Oh boy. I usually get a Jiras per quarter from Atlassian, and so this one, wow, they're a lot more strict about this now. It used to be that you can run these for another 2-3 months after, but apparently they're killing them off real quick. But stay tuned. I'll come back and confirm. This is, I think, because like this external share here, this is a plugin. See, as you can see, there's a 30-day plugin, a 30-day plugin trial that I had. I don't know if transitions is part of Jira. In the chat, do you all see transitions? Maybe you all can help me out. If you go to your Jira, do you see transitions, or is this a plugin that I have? Again, I just have so many plugins because I do so many reviews. It's hard for me to tell, and I can't access a different Jira right now. If somebody can help me out and tell me, oh, you know what? I do have access to another Jira. I have my wife's Jira. Oh boy, let's switch account here. So I'm gonna jump into spoilers. This is where the magic happens. This is how we keep track of our Jira. So time and status. Oh boy, and I think I have a plugin. No, this is a plugin. Okay, so yeah, so you do not see you will not see transition. So that's definitely a plugin that I have. So if you need that kind of thing, oh, Tushar says he's got the option. Okay, that's weird. I don't know. I need to go start with the brand new Jira and see it. This is a different Jira. I don't see it here, but I'm also in the old UI. So this is the old UI. So I wonder if it's part of the new UI. it's a TBD. I'll have to get back to you all here and see what's going on. But you may or may not have this transition. I would suspect that this time and status, though. No, I would suspect, yeah. This one says powered by Singulars, new status colors pro. So, hmm. I would suspect that, yeah, that this is a plugin. I don't think you should see it too short. I don't think, based on what I'm seeing here, you might need to have new status colors pro by Singular, one of my favorite companies out there. And so, if you want this, right, if you want to know how much time things were spent on each status, definitely check out that plugin. Again, not sponsored, but kind of a worthy mention. Okay, so we spent a lot of the time on the active sprint, right? We spent a lot of time there, and I kind of showed you what to do and how to interact with Jira. But there's different ways to look at your work, right? And so another way to look at your work is through the calendar view. And so as long as you put a start date and a due date on these items, as long as they have those two dates, then you're going to be able to see it here. But you also see things like your sprints and releases. And so this is a release here that has a start and end date as well. Your sprints, of course, have start and end dates. And then this particular item, if you remember, we put a start and a due date. And so when you put a start and due date, you can see this particular item goes all the way to the 18th, all the way over here. Okay, so that's a different view that you have available. You also have this list view. This list view is kind of an interesting view. It's becoming more and more powerful each and every day. And this list view does a few things. One, it lets you do inline editing, right? So I can update the summary. I can change the status. I can add a comment. I can put it into a sprint. And so in a very Excel-like fashion, you can you can interact with yep, see, I told you there's a plugin, man. There's got to be a plugin for that transition. And Sean confirmed that they don't see it. Okay. So, anyways, this view is pretty powerful. Again, it's a newer view. It's probably about a year and a half old. I like it. I like working out of here. And it also gives you the hierarchy. So this is kind of like if you are not on the premium version of Jira, and so you don't use plans, like this is like a good middle ground. This is a good compromise, a good workaround, where this gives you at least your hierarchy. And if you had initiatives and if you had things like that, it'll give it to you as well. But if you're just on the standard version of Jira and you don't have, plans, and this is going to work out well to give you that hierarchy. And so you can see the entire hierarchy here. So it's not just the epics and the stories, that you should be able to see any story that has a subtask as well. Right. And so in fact, I'm going to click this little plus button here and I can give it a subtask. This is a subtask. Right. And so when I enter, you can see that I get the triple tier hierarchy here. So again, if you're not used to using plans, this is a pretty cool view. And if you are using plans, I would still recommend plans. Plans is still going to be way more powerful than this. But again, this is a good alternative. From this view here, you can also create work, right? So you can create new stories, an even newer story. And I won't bore you all, but if you haven't hit that subscribe button or become a member, definitely become a member, right? And in fact, become a member. We can make that as a story. Let me know when we can update that's done. Okay. And so you create your work here. You can move things around. So if I want to put things under this particular epic, I can do this, right? And now this story is associated with that epic, right? So I just altered the parent. You can click on this plus button over here and add fields, right? So if I wanted to bring that parent, I can bring in that parent field and I can now see who the parents are. You can move these fields around. So there's like a little grid thing. And so you can just move the columns. At least you're supposed to. Maybe not. It does let you add columns here wherever you want them, though. I wish there was an easier way to move these columns in these fields. I know I've tried to move it, and I thought it worked in the past, but apparently not. You might have to remove the column and then bring it back in by clicking the plus button, but you can alter these things. Now, another cool thing that you get is you get to view as a chart, and so you can select one of your fields here, and you can see some charts here. So you can see the assignees, you can see like the issue type, and if you don't like the donut, you can see it as a horizontal bar. So you get a couple, not too much, right? These are not customizable. I wish they were. This would be cool if it can work for any field, but you have some predetermined fields that Atlassian decided to give to us, and these are the ones we can use. Okay. Now, aside from all the list view, right? Because again, if I'm not in the backlog, because the backlog is a lot of strategic thinking, right? Like you're planning work. Your active sprint is execution, right? You're in the zone, your blinders on for the next 2 weeks, you're working on specific work and you're executing on very specific work. The calendar view is cool. I just don't care for calendar views. I don't work off the calendar view. But if you wanted to see like, all like just the start and the end date of everything, then this calendar view is going to give you all that work individualized, right? For every task by itself. The list view is going to be great when you can see the hierarchy. So you can see all the nesting of how all the work is interrelated, right? But there's one last view, and that is the all work here. So at the end of the day, we can use this all work, and you're going to notice that it's very, very similar. It's very, very similar to the list view. But in the chat, what's different? What do you think is different? I'll give you a hint. Look at the order of stuff. Look at these epics at the bottom, and look at these epics are at the top, right? And so I'll give you the answer here because we're running out of time, and I do want to end this one here very soon because I do have a meeting immediately after this, right? But the all work is going to give you a couple of benefits. One, it's going to give the list to you in chronological order. So the newest thing that we've created is at the top. Okay. The order is descending. So that become a member story, by the way, become a member if you haven't already, is at the very top. The list is in inversed. So it's an ascending order. So that newest item that we just created, become a member, is at the bottom, right? And so those are two fundamentals. So depending on which way you like to look at it, I mean, it doesn't have to be that way though, right? Because you can just click on the column that it's filtered by right now, you created, and just flip it, right? And now it looks more like your list, or maybe not. I don't know. It's supposed to. Maybe I have to refresh. Come on, flip. There we go. Now it looks more like our list, right? But you also see that you can start to see the hierarchy. I don't like this. I absolutely hate this because when I go to all work, I want to see all my work. I only see 10, even though I have more than 10 items. And it's not into, and even expanding these doesn't do it, right? Like this should say all the work. This should show me everything, not just the items that are at the top of the hierarchy. And this is a very misleading, very ugly bug that Atlassian has. And I'm pretty sure it's a feature, but this should really be a bug here, right? But all the work, we have more than 10 items. As you can see, when I expand things out, we have more than 10 items. So this is the view, though, that if you wanted to see all your work, as the name implies, you should be able to see all your work. And so unfortunately, what you need to do now in order to see all your work is you need to click on, I believe, the detail view. Yeah, and the detail view will show you all 25 items. If you are in the list view, just know that it's kind of buggy and it doesn't show you all the work, unlike what it says here, all work. Okay? Very, very, very annoying that it doesn't do that. But the other thing that you can do, and the reason why people like this all work view, is it allows you to do a query. So if you wanted to find the work for a specific person, you can do that, and it's going to find you any of the work that belongs to that specific person, right? And so you can save these as filters, which you can then use as dashboards later, right? But this all work view again is going to it's supposed to, right? It's not working right now because Atlassian is doing us all wrong here, right? But this is supposed to show you all of the tasks, and I'll stick to detail view because this will show you all the tasks, right? But it's supposed to show us all the tasks, and so if we want to just see the bugs in this project, we can do that, and so we can see all the bugs here, okay? And any field is queryable. So if you are looking for a field like, I don't know, due date, and you don't see it here, you can simply click over here, type in due date, type in the due date here, and now you can say, hey, let me see everything that's overdue, right? And I just want to see everything that's overdue. So you just click on this, and it's going to show you every overdue item. Come on, Jira, you can do it. Oh, I got to hit update, right? So now it's going to show you every overdue item, and I have 5 items that are overdue. And now when I switch back to my list view, it should preserve that, and I'll see those 5 items. Okay, so that's kind of cool. It's a great way to again search or get more granular, because in the list view, right? In the list view, you have some filtering, but you can do things like active sprint, assign to me, do this week. You can do very basic stuff, but in the all work, every field is open, and you can basically query on every single field. All right, folks. I think that got us everywhere. So we got notifications, commenting, mentioning, updated, finding your work. Yep, I think I hit it all. So What I'm going to do here is, if you're watching this and you're interested, I'm going to drop the links. I do have a couple of Udemy courses available out there. We got special promo codes for you all, so you get a little bit of a discount here. So check those out. If you haven't already, I do offer. We're in the second half of the year, and this might be the last time I do all this stuff, right? So we have the last 24 courses for the year. And so if you're interested in taking the rest of those courses, check them out, sign up using the link that I just dropped into the chat, right? And definitely check out those courses and sign up for all of them, and make sure you come, because I love having people in class. But I just dropped my link tree again. Follow me on LinkedIn. Connect with me if you're watching this and you're like, hey Alex, I just want to send a connection request. Definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. I've already beat this one to death, but if you haven't subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you're not a member and you'd like to get access to all that exclusive stuff, become a member. One of the new perks that we're going to be doing here is I'm going to be dropping new Udemy courses here over the summer. And so you'll get early access to the modules as well. So not only will you basically get early access, but because the member, you get them for free, they'll be included in your membership. So check out those benefits on the memberships, and go from there. Now, I do have some free courses from Salto, so go check those out. I should also confirm that they still work. So actually, let's go there and see if they're still there. I did the courses with Salto about a year and a half ago. Boy, where are they? I should make these easier. I should make them a lot easier. I also have one-on-one help. So if you need an hour of my time, there's an hour. I have my complete beginner's course on Udemy. I have a book that I published. If you just want to donate and you're like, hey, Alex, this is awesome. There's super chat here. So you can do super chat through YouTube, or you can go over to my Buy Me Coffee and do a donation there. And I apparently got rid of my Salto courses, so I need to figure out what happened to them. They used to be there. Maybe I Salto got rid of them already. Oh no, they're right here. Free Jira trainings, and they're here. Yep. So yeah, so they're still here. Jira Kanban and Scrum Board Administration, and I believe it was this one here, user cleanup and configuration. So check those out. And there's free courses. Again, not everything's paid, so you can get some free stuff. I do have a nerdy merch store. I already told you to go subscribe to the Jira Life. So go. Here's Liz. Liz was on the Jira Life recently, and so go check out the Jira Life. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you all for being here. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you all next week. Next week we'll be covering, not for this course. This course we'll see you next month. But if you are a Jira admin and you're interested in custom fields, we'll be talking about custom fields next week in the Jira admin course. So thank you all for being here, and see you all soon. Bye.